got that, Ken?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. It's so moving when you speak about things. Just the cost of freedom and the appreciation of that's what you were just speaking to. And the little things, how when the little things happen, like going to a Starbucks, things, going to McDonald's, whatever it is. When you think of speaking to leaders of tomorrow, the audience to begin with here is for the Naval Academy, but then it'll go on to the military at large, to potentially disabled vets who need encouragement and need understanding about appreciating what they have, because often you talked about the things you can't change. You can't change if you've lost a limb or you've been hurt. Those are the things. I have a young friend who was in an auto accident. I was coaching him in soccer, and he was in an auto accident when he was in high school and was paralyzed from the neck down. He's been in a wheelchair his whole life. And he skis, he surfs, he bicycles, he's amazing.
Yep.
And so can you speak to that quality where because I think it's such an important one about as leaders to understand there are things you cannot change and things you can. And the Lord's Prayer, give me the wisdom to know the difference. Can you speak to that?
There are situations that you're going to come up, run into in your life that are what they are. Whether you're a prisoner of war, whether you're recovering from an accident, and you're a spinal cord injured, or you're a traumatic brain injury, things of the nature that things will happen in combat, in wartime, to military people. And you're going to see this, whether it happens to you or somebody else. That's reality. That's life. And when you run into these situations, I think you have to recognize, the first thing you need to recognize that as unfortunate as it is, whether it happens to you or to a friend or your buddy, that's reality. It is what it is. And this is the cards that are dealt to you, and this are the cards that you have to play with. This is the hand you've been dealt, and this is what you have to play with. And your job, if you don't, I'm sure that you will realize this, but you have to do this in the best manner that you can. You can't just give up. You don't want to do that. You don't want to just give up, because no matter how dire the situation may appear to you, and you may not recognize this, there's a tomorrow, there's a beyond, and there's a way to get there. And this has been shown time and again in the past. People who have been injured or in combat, and they come back to this country and they're disabled, whether they're a spinal cord injured person or an amputee or a triple amputee and what have you. You can see, after a period of going through a rehabilitation process, whatever it is, I can point out individuals to you who are skiing down slopes on one leg, with no arms, making themselves. There's another producer that we know who's did a documentary on about 3 or 4 of these paralyzed veterans, amputees, what have you, who climbed the Alps. I mean, these are things that you can achieve. You don't know it, but it can be done. So what it is I think just keeping the faith in yourself and your God. in 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 the fact that things can come forward. So as whether you're a person who's going to experience this, or if you're a leader of men and women and active duty people, whether it's a platoon of Marines, or a company on a ship, or an aircraft crew, or what have as leader, you first of all have to understand that this is the situation, and things can be done that may seem impossible, because and it may be your job to also encourage and lead those who have experienced the wounds, the injuries, all of these. Whether you're a coach, and so your job can grow into being an encouragement. So that's reality, and there's a term that they use now for those who have experienced trauma, and a lot of it has been known as post-traumatic stress. But a new term, which is, I think, a better definition of what can be taken up, is post-traumatic growth. You grow out of your situation, and that requires a mental attitude that you're going to grow out of it, and that takes training. It doesn't come just overnight. It has to evolve with training and what have you.
Thank you. Sorry, I had a tickle in my throat.
Want me to hold that real quick?
Yeah.
I have
Cough drop.
we have cough drop.
Take the camera for you.
Carrie's.
Cough drop and some water?
Right.
Do you need something, or need that?
No, she was. You were looking.
Thank you.
Yeah, I gave him a cough drop.
Okay, great. Let's repeat the part about post-traumatic stress, post-traumatic growth, please.
A common term that we know that applies to people who have undergone trauma is a post-traumatic stress, which has several facets to it. But I think the better way to, or a better approach to take to post-traumatic stress is that, there is stress post-traumatic to some traumatic thing, is to start looking at it in a different way, is that there is a way out of it, to grow out of it, and it's post-traumatic growth, which is a change in attitude, basically, so that you're not looking at, I'm under stress, this is stressful, what have you, but post-traumatic growth, it's a mental adjustment to the fact that, hey, I can grow out of it. And that takes time, it takes training, it's a different attitude. And that's, I think, a key element in rehabilitation, becoming a productive person again, no matter what your injury, what the trauma was. Today you see many the veterans with post-traumatic stress that as a result of traumatic brain injuries, amputations, what have you. And it's just the ability to develop that change in mental attitude. I think that people in the mental health arena have come a long way, and it's really developed, and there are many, many facets and examples of how people have come out of their situations and become more productive, accomplished people.
And you talked about leadership in the Hanoi prison systems. That it seems like, in part, what you're saying is that not only did you individually have to come to that place of understanding what you can affect and change and what is out of your control, but it seems that the leadership helped in that as well, particularly after people broke under torture, to give them a sense of, hey, listen, you did the best you could there, this you couldn't control, here's what you can control. Can you speak to the way, because these are young leaders in formation, things that they can think about in their future careers as officers and leaders, in helping those who follow them to both accept and understand the strength of what they can affect, and the things, and accept the things that they cannot.
Can I film you? Can I film you saying that? Because you've just nailed it. And I would try to say this to young people, men and women, who will be leaders, who will be officers, who will be in charge of leading those whom follow them, those who are under their command. I would say that part of your job is to lead them, not only physically and tactfully and what have you, but also with a mental attitude, especially if they find themselves with, as a result of combat, of war, in situations, and they have, I think, the ability as leaders to articulate to their charge, those that they have the responsibility for, to have the ability to say, look, this is reality. It is what it is, given your situation, whether you're a traumatic brain injured person, whether you're a amputee, whether you're a spinal cord injured, paralyzed. Well, that, as a result of what you've been through or what you're in, along with that is a component, the mental health part, where you can give them hope. You can cite experiences where others who have gone through the same experience, who have found themselves with the same ailments, the same injuries, the same things, have achieved good, productive lives down the road. They don't despair. There's a way. People are finding ways to do it. And what that requires is a change in attitude where you're not a victim so much because you've been injured, because you have post-traumatic stress, because you have traumatic brain injuries or what have you. But the fact is that others who have had the same thing have grown out of it. So I would term post-traumatic growth in the sense that you grow out of your situation, and that's a mental attitude. That is it requires an optimistic approach. It requires knowledge that others have gone through the same thing and had achieved productive lives in the future, and they can accomplish their goals and their dreams and so forth. So I think that that's part of the training for young leaders, is to recognize that this has been done, and then I think it's also part of the curriculum to point out or demonstrate to these young developing leaders, talk about experiences and show them, so that these future leaders can in turn encourage and lead others who they will be under their command to work through their injuries and what have you.
Beautiful. And
you always say beautiful. It's
well, it is beautiful. Hold on, let me get a little bit of filtration here.
yeah. Anyway, so there we are.
There we go. That's better.
And this is called B and B. or BB? What do you call this taping?
Well, this is a B-roll filming.
B-roll, B-roll.
But
Yes,
honestly,
but we're getting,
when you start to speak, it's so good that it would literally be considered A-roll, because it's you speaking, but I just can't pass up the opportunity here to say what you do. So, one last question, which is, I would love to touch on, and then also I want to leave it open to you if it occurs to you what you wanted to speak about the other day and you forgot to mention.
Oh, I just did.
Okay, good.
That was one. And I forgot what the other one was, because given my age, I'm doing pretty well. I remembered one. Kent, did you get what you wanted down there?
I'm set up for it.
You're set up
Yeah,
for it?
Patrick
Okay.
has to get a few photographs for me.
All right.
One last question.
Uh-oh.
Can you speak about the importance of honor? You spoke about it the other day.
Gosh.
Honor is something taught at the,
That's a deep subject. There is no short answer. The honor has many different elements. Honor includes character. Honor includes values. Honor includes religious beliefs, beliefs in general. Honor is something that is talks about reputation, integrity of the individual. It covers discipline. There's many different facets you can really get into when it comes to talk about honor. Our theme was return with honor, which was all encompassing. A return as much as you can of the whole person, the whole being. And then you say to yourself, well, what is that? Nobody is perfect. So you can say that there are many gaps in character or integrity or what have you, but I think the purpose is more of I think the definition just cannot be succinct. It has to be broad and explained broadly in that sense. Honor is a feeling of pride, includes that. And so when we say return with honor, what sticks in my mind and what I feel in my mind and what I feel physically is the being able to stand erect and puff my chest out and throw my shoulders back in a way and have pride in myself. And when I say we as a group return, pride within of our group, because we went through an experience and we served. And as Jeremiah Denton said, under the most difficult circumstances. But we served with pride because we demonstrated something good, something positive, and that was our goal. That was our vision. That was individually what I would envision is returning with honor, is having performed and having conducted myself positively, giving it all I had, all I physically and mentally had to come out of that experience. And that, to me, was that I can honestly say I gave it my all. And now I can look back and say, well, in this particular case, I probably could have held out another day. Or in this particular case, my goodness, you know, maybe it wasn't so important. I have that water that I was thirsting for that particular hour. Maybe I could have held out, but I was thirsty, or maybe I could have taken another night of sleeping with the mosquitoes or what have you. I don't know. I don't know how I would have come out. Maybe I could have stood another hour of that pain. I'll never know, because maybe I wouldn't have bounced back. And yeah, I often wondered at the time about the fellows that didn't come back. At what point did they lose the ability to reason that, you know, I'm not going to bounce back? Where did they reach that point where they couldn't reason, and they had gone beyond, and their bodies were broken, their mind was broken, and they didn't come back? So, did I come close enough to giving it all I had? I don't know, but I tried, and rather than, you know, but I tried again, and then it happened again. And in 1969, when they pulled me out, and I was, things were starting to increase, but there was an escape attempt, and they went throughout the camp, and they pulled me out, and they used a rifle butt when I wouldn't do a tape, and they started knock me over. The guy was hitting me with his rifle butt, and I was laying on the floor, and the camp commander walked in and get up, and then he yelled at the guards and the interrogator for, you know, look at him, meaning me. And he was talking Vietnamese, but I knew he was talking about me. And they sent me back to my cell. So I was being dragged back, and as I came up, and they let me in my cell, I had a roommate named Dick Ratzlaff, and I walk in, and he looked at me, and he just sort of said, "Oh my God," and I was all bloody, and they left me in there, and I think my eye was swollen shut, what have you. Here it was, 1969. I mean, they've been doing that for years. And the fellow that was in the next cell tapped over, and he said, "When the going gets tough, the tough get going." And I said, "Look, it doesn't hurt. It may not look good, but it doesn't hurt." And I told Dick, I said, you know, because Dick I played football in high school. And I said, "You remember how you got banged around in high school? You got your nose broken and things like that back." I says, "This is like being in high school." And but he could see he was, oh God, you know. You never know, you know. And that was the last time they came after me physically. But I look back at that. I look back before, and I look back before, and in retrospect, I think I gave it all I could. Or let's put it this way: if I had resisted and not gave in when I gave in, would I be back? I'll never know. And so the question was, did I do the best I could? I could honestly say, yeah. So when you take that in and take in the whole fact that, you know, you kept within the organization, you were one of the crew, you were doing your best, that was returned with honor. That was honor, looking back. And the performance, the experience was honorable. And not just individually, but as a group, I would say, yeah.
And what's interesting is that in the work with you and other of the former POWs, particularly those of you who hold a spiritual view of life,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think it's, on the one hand, it was returned to your country with honor, but in the things that you've said, you're also expressing a sort of peace in your own soul.
Mm-hmm.
For those who are of religious belief, they believe that their existence is subject to a creator,
Mm-hmm.
to which they will one day return. And to feel at the end of one's life that one could return with honor is a powerful thing. Can you say something to that effect, to that concept?
I don't know if I can. I haven't really delved into that.
Yeah, that's okay. We can let that.
But when you were saying that, I thought of McCain, because his whole life was an honorable one, given the fact that he was the POW experience, the political experience, working across the aisles of the thing, trying to lead in all of lead the congressional, the Senate, out of the divisiveness that achieves nothing, trying to do that. I mean, I could imagine he was so frustrated, but I would imagine he also, people can look at him, or he can look at his life and say, it was an honorable life. I tried. I did the best I could. So.
Alex, would you mind getting me the BPU battery, actually an FP battery for this?
Yeah, I have one right here. I'm cutting.
Okay, we're going to cut.